In this episode of Cars with Jay, I'm going to be telling you how to make your Euro 5 diesel ULEZ compliant. Yes, that's right, you'll be able to drive within the zone legally and for free. And I'm also going to be reviewing this awesome 2015 F30 330D because I think it makes one of the best daily drivers despite being diesel and despite everyone telling you to go to electric.
This is Sean's 2015 BMW F30 330D. It has a 3-litre inline-6 diesel engine with a single dual-scroll turbo. This setup produces 258 horsepower and 560 Nm of torque. Equipped with its 8-speed ZF gearbox, it will do 0 to 62 in 5.6 seconds and onto a top speed of 155 miles an hour. But wait, there's more. You see, Sean's car is not stock anymore. It has benefited from some stage 1 upgrades, such as engine and gearbox ECU remap, with the engine producing 312 brake horsepower and 640 Nm of torque. The front brakes have been upgraded with drilled and grooved discs and uprated pads. The brake fluid has also been upgraded to high temperature brake fluid, which is a must on any BMW. Premium Goodyear Eagle F1 tyres have been fitted also, and last but not least, a K&N air filter along with a dark side front mount intercooler. I'm looking forward to see how these driver focused mods have improved the 330D over its standard form.
Right, let's look around Sean's 330D. So you'll notice that this is a 2015 version. What does that mean? Well, it's the first Euro 6 version of this car, but it's also the last of the pre-facelift. So after this, 2016, all you got was the facelift LCI version, which I'll talk through the differences right now. The first thing that's different, you'll notice the headlight on the pre-LCI has these LED rings, whereas the LCI version, which I'll show on screen now, has the LED rings, but also it connects to the grille. The bumper is slightly different, and apparently according to the specs, the headlights are actually wider apart on the LCI version, which I found really hard to actually distinguish in real life. The grills are also slightly different, but apart from that, it's pretty much the same. The standard wheels that came on this car are different on the LCI version. They're usually 5-spoke. And on the last generation of these, which I think looks really nice, the 2019, it came as a shadow edition, which has black inserts in the front and rear lights. So if we work our way around to the back, you'll notice on the pre-LCI as well, you have these red lights with LEDs, which is pretty standard on most BMWs of this year. However, you have the orange indicator lights, which personally I'm not a fan of. I do prefer the rear tail lights on the LCIs, which I'll show on screen now. Apart from that, the rear doesn't really change much on the LCI. So another thing on the back of the 330D, you'll notice that it has twin exhaust pipes. This used to be a giveaway of 3 litres back in the day with BMWs, especially with the E90 series. But with these F30s, even a 320D comes with twin tips. So it's not necessarily a giveaway as to what engine this car has. Sean's still got his 330D badge on it. Personally, I would debadge that and just have the BMW logo, so people didn't really know what you were running. But overall, very, very smart, and I do like the look of this car. So if you move to the side of the car, you'll notice the upgraded 19-inch M Sport alloys. The standards come as an 18s, and you can see that we've got Goodyear Eagle F1 tyres, which are much better than the standard run flats that come on this car. So that's definitely an upgrade. But one thing I wanted to show you guys is that on the front, take a look at how big those brake discs are. And yes, they're drilled and grooved, and the brake fluid has been upgraded, which I always recommend. So I'm looking forward to see how this car brakes when we take it out for a spin. If we take a look inside, this particular model is spec'd with the red interior, which I think contrasts the white really nicely. This also goes well on black and grey cars. And then you've got the Harman-Kardon sound system, which is very, very nice to have. The nice Y steering wheel, which comes in the M Sport versions, apart from the non-M Sport versions, which has a bit more of a chunkier, uglier steering wheel. And most importantly, the Pro Nav. Okay, so ULEZ, what am I talking about? Where you can get your car ULEZ compliant for free, even if it's a Euro 5 diesel. So the first thing that I keep hearing is your car needs to be 2015 or newer to be ULEZ compliant. That is simply not true. What TFL don't tell you, which is what really bugs me, is that your car either has to be Euro 6 or has to have a NOx gas emission output of the Euro 6 emission standard. So that means a Euro 5 car, for example, the older F30 330Ds or the 530D F10s, can meet that requirement and can become ULEZ. So you're probably wondering, why is my Euro 5 car not coming up as ULEZ compliant when I search it on TFL's website when I'm saying that it could be? Well, this is the thing that TFL don't tell you. They only use the Euro 6 database. They do not use the Euro 4 database, Euro 5 database, only Euro 6. So it's very generalized, and it's up to us, unfortunately, to tell them that our car is compliant. So now you're probably wondering, how do you actually find out?
In order to apply for ULEZ exemption from TFL, you must first find out if your car meets TFL's ULEZ requirement. The requirement is Euro 6, or that your car emits a NOx emission equal to or less than 0.08 grams per kilometre. You can find this out by contacting your manufacturer's homologation or compliance department. You'll need proof of ownership, a formal ID, your V5C document, VIN number, and you will need to state that you believe your car meets the ULEZ requirements. If your car does, you'll be sent a formal letter via email. This, along with the other documents, can be sent to TFL and your car will become ULEZ compliant. Link in the description below for TFL's ULEZ exemption service.
Now that you've found out about the ULEZ thing, let's take this out for a spin and find out exactly what it's like to drive a Stage 1 330D. So guys, 2,000 subscribers on the channel, it's 2024. I'm aiming to bring out a lot more content to you. I've got so many friends with really cool, quirky cars that I want to bring to the channel, and this being one of them. It's a 330D, and now for some people this seems a bit normal, mundane. It's not a M car, it's not a performance car, it's not a petrol, it's a diesel, which is blasphemy for some petrol heads, but I'm not going to lie to you, this is a fantastic daily proposition, because you can get these as cheap as under 10 grand now. I actually saw one for 6 grand, but that was really ropey and it was from Birmingham. But you can get a lot of these cars for around £10,000 now, which puts it into the price point for a lot of people. It's insane value for money. If you know me, I like diesels. I do 25,000 miles a year, and I spend a lot of time on the motorway, and I feel like diesels just are mile munchers. They just soak it up. You get good MPG. I mean, this car's returning 40 right now, and we've been doing some spirited driving, and you just don't get that from a petrol car. A lot of people talk about the noise. The noise doesn't really bother me, because these inline 6 diesels from BMW sound amazing. They have like this little audible tone to it that makes it almost sound like a really poorly running petrol engine, but it doesn't sound as bad as a typical diesel. Let's see if we can get something out of it. I mean, I've heard worse. So immediately the power just kicks in. The throttle response is so linear in this car. There's no lag whatsoever, so much low down torque. And the brakes, when you're on it, give you so much confidence. Now, it's 3 degrees at the moment, which means that I don't really trust the grip that much. I mean, we're running Goodyear Eagle F1s, which are pretty good tires, but if it's cold, it's cold, and they're summer tires, so we're not really getting that much heat through them. But just as a spirited drive, as one might do in one of these cars, because you're buying this car as your daily driver, right? You want it to be comfortable, but some days when you've had a long day at work, you want to have a bit of a play. Now, we've got it in Sport Plus, we've got no traction on. Definitely makes for an interesting ride. But you know what, so far it feels like a petrol engine car. It really, the way it's pulling, the way it's going through the gears, it's revving up high. It doesn't feel like it's running out of juice. A lot of diesels just die as they get up to the upper end of their revs, but this just feels like it keeps on giving. And the brakes, so much confidence through that pedal. In the F30 3 Series, it's the first 3 Series model to not offer hydraulic steering. The previous E90 version had that. In my E90, I had the hydraulic steering, and honestly, that made the driving feel very, very involved. You could get so much more road feedback, and it's something that I always prefer. However, working on them if you're a mechanic is an absolute pain in the arse. Audis and Mercedes don't do it well. Mercedes feels too progressive, Audi just feels too light and unrealistic. But BMW know how to tune these quite right, and you can map the steering in this to give it that kind of M car feel. However, it's not the same as a genuine hydraulic steering. In this scenario today, and the way I've been driving it, I haven't actually had any issues with it. I don't feel like it needs to be any better than what it is right now. I feel it's quite compliant, it's nicely weighted. I feel like I'm in control of the car, especially when the back end broke loose. So steering gets a thumbs up from me from a stock point of view. We've established power delivery is great. We've established that the brakes are great, the steering feels amazing. What about the gears? Well, we've got an 8-speed ZF gearbox here, and it's not a dual clutch system like most modern hot hatches or saloons with petrol engines. The Octavia VRS, for example, that has a DSG gearbox. But the problem with running high torque through gearboxes like that is it tends to just eat through the clutches, whereas this ZF gearbox is a torque converter setup and you don't have to worry about any of that. It is quite reliable and it changes gears really quick. If I downshift now, I didn't even want to say when it did it, because before I even opened my mouth, it's already changed. It's really, really that responsive. Not as quick as a PDK, but nothing that you'd worry about, to be honest.
So let's talk about running costs. The M57 engine is reliable, however it requires major maintenance between 120k and 170k miles, timing chain being the most expensive job. Because it is located at the back of the engine, it is not something you can do on your driveway. It involves either removing the gearbox or taking the engine out. A garage would charge around £750 for this type of job. The next is oil leaks, and most commonly from the rocker cover gasket or oil filter housing. This can be done yourself for under £150 in parts. Garages seem to quote around £250 to £350 for this type of job. A set of premium tyres will set you back around £600 to £700, brake discs will set you back around £450, a ZF8 gearbox service will cost you around £400 to £600, engine servicing can be done for under £100 if you do it yourself, and I recommend servicing the engine every 6,000 to 8,000 miles. This is to reduce the wear on the timing chain. So while these prices may not necessarily seem that cheap, you must remember that most of this needs to be done once in your ownership if you keep the car long term.
So fun and games over, we know the car drives absolutely superbly. For a daily driver, it doesn't feel special in terms of like a purist point of view. It's just a very, very good daily driver, and it is a cut above the rest when you compare it to its competition. So I have no qualms in how this car drives. I mean, M-Sort suspension is quite stiff sometimes, but honestly, it's very compliant. And the car is really quiet when you're at motorway speeds, which we're about to show you now. So this is where the car's more suited. We're on an A road, it's 70 mile an hour, it's dual carriageway, and it's just really comfortable. The way this car soaks up miles, it feels like it's barely even trying. And I love the way these cars are geared, because at 70 mile an hour, you're just under 1800 RPM. And it's just so eloquently gliding along the road. There's not sophisticated suspension on these models, but it's just a nice, pleasurable experience to be. And this is where people want this car to excel at. You're using this every single day and you're most likely doing a lot of miles. The steering is nicely weighted even in comfort mode, so I just feel so much in control on the motorway. So this car is not the X-Drive version, it's the rear-wheel drive version. Honestly, I recommend the X-Drive version for every day, because you just don't have to worry about the back end kicking out unexpectedly and then ruining your day. In this case, this car is a bundle of fun. I don't think it should be running any more power, any more torque, but the way it gets to 70 mile an hour, it's just unreal. It's just so quick from an everyday point of view. And still, miles per gallon, we're hitting 38.6 at the moment with spirited driving. I don't think you can ask for any more than that. The engine's completely smooth. I'm blown away by these cars, I always am. And I think that as a daily proposition, the estate version for me and a lot of others would be the one to go for. However, they are more expensive. They do command a premium. In my opinion, the 5 Series is also a very, very good option, the F10 530D, because they're not as common. And from the point of view as you get a slightly more luxurious car, it's bigger, it's not as fun to drive. But if you are finding that the marketplace on these cars are competitive with spec, the 530Ds tend to be a lot quieter, so you can go over to that market and you might be able to find a better car for your money. However, Tourings are considerably more expensive. So overall, this car does what it says on the tin. It's a practical, usable daily, it's medium sized, and using it around town is very easy. It's really, really enjoyable to drive. I've had so much fun driving this today, and thank you to Sean for giving me the car. So thank you very much, guys. This is 2024. I'm signing out. This is Cars with Jay. Please subscribe if you like the video and give it a like rating.